What's up, everybody? This is Connor and Joshua with Chamber One Tactical. Today we've got the all-new R7 Mako carbon fiber compact from Kimber. So this gun is a new iteration of the R7 Mako. They made a few different changes that we're going to get into, so let's get into it. Alright, so as you guys know, we typically like to start off with the actual value of the gun. To us, that's one of the most important things. So with this gun, this was sent to us from Kimber to do a review on. So we didn't have to purchase it ourselves, but we do know the values on it. So if you get the standard IO option, which is what they originally sent us without the threaded barrel, it's right at $9.95. And then if you get a threaded barrel and you have the IO, which includes this 407K from Holosun, it's right at around $1,100. So a little more expensive than what we typically would look at for compact carry guns that are on a budget. But there's a lot of features that Kimber has packed into this thing. So first thing I'm going to start off with is the sights, because I was actually very impressed and happy to see that Kimber went ahead and put some nice sights on this thing. So this does have tritium filled sights. The back sights are tritium filled with little white dot rings around it, and then the front is tritium with an orange ring around it. So I think one of the best sight options you could go with. This is probably one of my favorite setups that you could go with. I like the bright front, and the white in the rear really doesn't get too much in your way. So it's a pretty good sight setup, especially for a carry gun, which is what me and Joshua typically want to see on a carry gun.
So. Right, and I do appreciate that the optic being added as part of the value in the pistol is really nice, and I will say that when you look through this with the optic, they were able to get the optic really low, and you can co-witness so well with these. Yep. You get a full picture on the sights that they have on there with this Holosun on there. So Kimber did a good job with their sight setup.
Absolutely.
Set up very much so for carry. The slide serrations are actually, really nice. They're nothing crazy, super aggressive. That are, it's just functional, right?
Right.
It's nothing too crazy, but we've never found ourselves slipping off of it. It's very easy to use, and it also does look good on the actual slide itself.
Yeah, I mean, Kimber to me has always been more, they are about function, but they're also about class and the way a gun looks. And this is more of, I'm happy to see Kimber moving in this direction, because this is more of a, gun you're not going to worry as much about like you would typically if you have a really high polished 1911 from them. So I think
it's very practical.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, the serrations, it's not anything fancy. It's not anything that like grabs your eye, but they do work well. And I like the way the slide is shaped, very round. So when you go to place your hand over the front slide and get a hold of it, it's very easy, and it's very comfortable. You don't have any sharp edges digging into your hand. So I do like that. I will say, Kimber does say that having this completely enclosed slide does add rigidity and strength to the slide itself. So obviously we're not going to test that, but they do make claims that having this completely almost enclosed slide does add some strength to it, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But moving on to the actual frame itself, now this is kind of the whole point of this gun. The exciting part is this is actually carbon fiber infused polymer. So you guys have seen fiberglass infused. You guys have seen all these different types of polymer frames. This one's carbon fiber infused, so this is supposed to be a very strong frame. And again, it's not anything that we were able to test, but they've made some claims that this is going to be a much stronger frame than previous models. Yeah. So I think that's pretty cool.
Well, and obviously they have made some changes to the original Mako, so obviously like having this full rail on there, which is really nice to have. Obviously the slide's just a little bit longer. And one thing that me and Connor appreciated is they have these little cutouts for your finger and for your thumb to actually wrench down on the gun, and it's got a lot of stippling on it, so you have a lot of texture, and it was really comfortable. Also with the frame, they have this molding over the slide stop slide release, which me and Connor have talked about in other guns that we really appreciate, because you don't accidentally push it on, but when you're coming down on top of it, there's no issue pushing down on it.
Right.
So also the stippling on it is really nice. And then if you want to talk a little bit about the back straps.
Yeah, and I will say real quick too, the actual texturing is one of the things when I first pulled this thing out of the box and I got my hands on it. I mean, they did a very good job um, giving you. I mean, there's really not much of the gun that doesn't have texturing on it, but everywhere they placed it, I mean, it's pretty much perfect for what you would want. You know, you got that real high undercut on the actual trigger guard that allows you to really get high up on the gun.
Yep.
You know, and Joshua and I, when we were shooting it, we were surprised at how soft shooting the gun was. And I think it's due to the stippling or the texturing, the amount of actual grip that you can get on it by all these undercuts.
High up on it, and it's also got a really nice beaver tail.
Yeah.
So you don't have to worry about any sort of slide bite. It covers your hand really well.
When they took everything into account. They've got texturing down here where your support hand goes. They've got texturing on the front. I mean, there's texturing everywhere.
When
but
you grab it, it just feels right.
Oh yeah. When it gives me vibes of like CZ, you know, when you grab onto a CZ and you're able, it kind of locks in your hands. It's very much so. It just feels natural. That's a good word.
And it points natural as well.
Right. So, like you said, so you've got 4 different back straps with this gun, which is nice because you can really change how you want this gun to feel in your hand. It's also fully ambi. So you've got ambi controls for your slide stop, slide release, and your mag release. So pretty neat that they're doing that on such a small gun, and I wouldn't notice it. You know, I mean, shooting the actual mag release does not get in your way, and you don't accidentally bump it, but it's very useful and it works pretty well. So happy to see that.
I will say one thing that I wish that they would do is make it where you can actually swap them out for extended mag releases, because I did find myself pushing with, I guess it's kind of hard to show on this side, but on this side with my thumb where you kind of have to dig in there just a little bit just because it's not sticking out. So it's not hard to do, but you just have to be a little bit more deliberate as far as pushing in a little bit farther and digging your thumb in there as opposed to like maybe the flat part of your thumb.
Right.
But that was the only thing I noticed with that. But yeah, just having the option like some other companies to actually swap it out, I think.
Yeah, and Joshua didn't exactly deal with this, but I did when I did change out the back strap, just trying different ones. And I will say the mag weld that they did on this thing, it's not the tightest mag weld that I've ever dealt with, but kudos to them for making it really user friendly. It's very easy to use. You pretty much punch this little pin out, and this little pin will drop, and you slide the thing on. So it's really easy to use, and I really like stuff that's user friendly. You don't have to have a actual tool to get it apart. I used a pin to push this little pin out, so it was really easy to take this thing off and on. So I really like that. But moving on to kind of one of the more important things of the actual gun is the trigger. So the trigger, in my opinion, was pretty good. I will say it took some getting used to. That's the only thing that I have. You know, it's not a bad trigger. It's not the best trigger. It's not like a 1911 or 2011 trigger, but it's a good trigger for carry. You know, you can see in the footage, Joshua was surprising me. I mean, he was running through some rounds, doing some pretty quick follow-up shots. It's just a different trigger, and Kimber says it's going to be within 5 to 7 pounds. We actually had it coming in right under 5 pounds, so they're pretty accurate with what the actual trigger pull is.
Yeah.
But if you want to explain kind of what you're feeling when you're going through that.
Yeah, this is something me and Connor had talked about. When we talk about the trigger being different, like he was saying, it's not a bad trigger by any means, but one thing that we noticed is typically a trigger is going to break closer to where the frame ends right here. And, you know, typically like a Glock, a CZ, P10 or something like that, or even a 2011, like it's kind of breaking right there.
Right.
Whereas this one, it seems like it's breaking further out. So like for someone that's got a little bit bigger hands or longer fingers, that would be perfect for them because, you know, they're not having to crunch their fingers up. So that was just one thing that we noticed. It just seems like the break and the reset were further forward and not closer to the rear like most guys.
But I would go out, you know, I would say that actually helps you from torquing the pistol. Because if you're really having to pull your finger down a lot, you're starting to curve your finger. So it helps not torque the pistol to the low left where people typically
It's not
do.
a bad thing by any means. It's just different.
Right.
It is very much so different. Yeah. But yeah, overall the trigger it's not too bad. It's very shootable, very repeatable. But it's not a CZ.
But like you said, I mean we shot it and then we went and shot a gun with a Timney trigger in it.
Yes.
and went back to this one, and it is very different.
Very
It's just
different.
a different, and that's why I say it's all about what you train with.
Mm-hmm.
And this is definitely one of those triggers that you would want to go out and just, obviously you want to train with any gun you're going to be carrying, but definitely get used to the trigger. And then the last thing we'll talk about is the actual, um, the functionality of the gun and everything. We didn't have any malfunctions at all. We put, I don't know how many rounds do you think? Close to 500 rounds, I would probably say. And we didn't have any malfunctions, not any hiccups with it, which I was very happy to see, especially with a gun that is supposed to be a carry gun, something that you're going to, defend your life with. So, again, everything going into it, this really turned out to be a pretty fun gun to shoot. And
yeah.
like I said, I'm very happy to see that we didn't have any malfunctions. That was the main thing I was worried about is, are we going to have malfunctions? Because if you're going to put a price tag of, almost $1,000 on a gun, you want to make sure it's reliable.
Yeah.
So I'll ask you if, so far,
Yeah.
would you recommend this gun to somebody?
Actually, yes. And the biggest thing that surprised me about this pistol was how softly it actually shot.
Yeah.
And I didn't expect it. And so even my first shots, I'm shooting and I'm like, wow, this handles the recoil really well. And of course, I think the value that you're getting with the magwell, the 215 round magazines, the optic on there, the night sights,
the awesome Kimber bag.
Yep. There's a lot of value that you're getting with this handgun. So I think the price is actually pretty fair.
Yep.
And for people that like Kimber and people that like to have more of a bougie kind of everyday carry, I think it's a great option so far. It's been 100% reliable, and that's, I guess, one of the most important things about the pistol.
Yep.
And it just seemed really solid. I actually really liked it. And it's about the same size as, say, like a Glock 19, so it's 15 round. The slide's about the same, but it did seem to be a little bit thinner.
Yeah.
So I like the ergonomics on it and how thin it was. It just seems like a really good carry option.
Yeah, I mean, I would say so. I always try to look at if you're going to say the Glock 19 is a standard, that is the industry standard, then what's making this gun better than the Glock to charge what they are? So, I mean, first off, like he said, you're getting the night sights that are already going to be co-witnessing, and you don't have to have a plate for your optic, which we've been asking for a long time. So, I mean, that in itself, adds value to me. And then everything that they did, everything that we liked about like a Springfield Echelon, having a thumb shelf on the side, having all that texturing, they did it perfect. I mean, the way this gun feels in the hand and all the extra spots that they have to really wrench down the gun, they did a great job on it. So I think it's well worth what they're asking. It may be harder for somebody to go out and pay that, but I think for what they're putting into this gun, the price is actually, pretty fair. But that's just our opinion based off of what we have, experienced so far. If you guys would like to see some more content comparing this to another gun,
or with a little comp on there,
or with a little comp on there,
threaded barrel,
just let us know down in the comment section. Make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time.